second session will be very exciting because now we're going to look at the style of evangelism. So let's make a little survey here this morning. How many of you are saved by a family member who invited you or shared you the gospel or prayed for you? Raise your hand, okay? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I have about 11, okay? 11 people, okay? How many of you are brought by friends? Okay, at work, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, okay? How many of you were watching a TV and then just received the Lord Christ, because there was an evangelist? Okay, 0. Literature, somebody gave you a Christian maybe packet or a brochure? No? Okay, we have 1. Okay, how many? No, 2? 2, okay. How many? Very good. Special events, Harvest Crusade, a camp, concert. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, it's okay to raise because maybe it's a second conversion, okay? Or a fourth conversion, okay? Okay, literature, that's already done, okay? Miracles. You got healed. My mom was healed, 1, 2, 3. 3, okay? Street evangelism in the corner. 1. Man, Frank, you've been saved a lot of times. Door to door. Anyone? Door to door? Okay, 1. Personal pursuit, very good. Very good. 2. All right. Others. You drown and an angel picks you up. Okay, so look at this. Wow. That's a lot. We have a winner right there. Okay. There's a reason for that because we're going to look at evangelism today from this aspect. So we're going to define evangelism, and there's a book that in preparation for this, and it's a very surprising book, The Unchurched Next Door. That's a very good book by Tom Rainier. But this is what he said about evangelism. Evangelism is the process of meeting people where they are, identifying their needs, and sharing the gospel of Christ to them. It is meeting, identifying, and sharing the gospel of Christ to them. That is the definition of evangelism. Evangelism comes from the Greek word evangelion, which means literally the good news. Okay? And man, I want to share this good news, In fact, after this seminar, we're going to listen to many of you who have been impacted by this good news. This good news should not be kept a secret. It should be shared outside to those who are lost sheep, lost coin, and lost son. Now, this involves the following. You have to identify these people. Your lost coin, your lost sheep, your lost friend. And there must be a demonstration of the gospel. And then communication. And then decision. Okay? So this is the sharing part. But this is very important. Demonstrating the gospel of Jesus Christ. And I will make a case on this later on. Because St. Francis of Assisi, I like what he said. He said, go and preach the gospel, the good news to the world. Preach only when it is necessary. In other words, this is the non-verbal part of evangelism. This is important. He looked at them, they were confused, they were aimless, and they were like sheep without a shepherd. I took the message for this particular translation. And Jesus said, what a huge harvest to his disciples. Confused, aimless, like sheep without a shepherd. Because we don't have much time, but here's the Greek for all three. The confused, that is an emotional need. The lost have an emotional need that we need to go after. They are confused. They are depressed. They are hurt. Like Agnes, they are angry. People have let them down. And then they are aimless. In Los Angeles, there's right now, they already call it a state of an emergency. There are homeless people, 15,000 congregate, no longer just in Skid Row, but in downtown LA. I visit a lot of patients every week. I go in those places. They're left and right. It's not just an emotional, it is also physical, aimless.
Excuse me.
And I asked him, why were you here? He got divorced, okay? Maybe intentional, unintentional. It was an accident. And he was just 1 month away because they will have a lot of debt. Then went downhill. The wife took the children and he got lost. He ended up in Skid Row. I could not believe those people have stories. I have a woman that I ministered. She actually was an actress. Yeah, and I even visited her in the hospital. She told me that. I Googled her name. Sure enough, 2 years ago, she died. She was in the evening news, but I saw her in Skid Row. Can you imagine that? Why? Emotional, physical, and then like sheep without a shepherd. And you will find Jesus was so moved. The word that the Greek used here, that he had compassion, that's even just so shallow. The word that he was so moved deeply. This was before his public ministry. He was so moved. And looking at them, they were emotionally, they were physically, and they were spiritually distraught. So, that is our mission, to go out and have the same compassion. Now, Tom Rainer in this book identified the different faith levels of the people who are in church. And if you look at your material, he has 5 categories. I think I like what Tom Rainer did, but there is another one that I'm going to introduce later on from the Rainer scale, but from the Neighbor scale. This is the Rainer scale. And he identifies the lost as the unchurched. It's just the same. U stands for unchurched. The first level is U5. These people are very antagonistic. They are highly resistant to the gospel. They have negative view of the church and the clergy. Yeah. You look at them, they don't want you to mention about Jesus, about the church, about the Bible. They're so resistant. Okay? That's U5. Next will be U4. Highly resistant to the gospel, but this time they are not antagonistic in attitude. Let's go back a little bit. U5 sometimes because people are hurt in their church. Okay? Like a woman that I knew when I was counseling way back in the Philippines who was abused, sexually abused by an uncle who is a priest. And she was very antagonistic. So there are reasons for that. U4, resistant, but they are not antagonistic in attitude. U3 would be no apparent receptivity. Another word for that is that they are neutral. They may or they may not listen to you, but they're open to discussion. Let me see what you have. And then U2, that's not the band who sang the song New Year's Day. They're friendly and they're receptive. Michael, before you got saved, where were you at the moment when you received Christ? Where were you? Were you U1, U2?
I'd say U3.
U3. So you neutral. Okay. This is very good. This is an American study and this is not very old. And they actually did a thorough research from people who are in Prague, in universities, in the suburbs, in the rural area, even to the highly populated places in the U.S. From high school students to people in the nursing homes. And this study came up with this. that only about 5% of the people around you are actually you one. You too would probably, I'm sorry, this is actually reverse, right? This is, I'm sorry, okay, let's crash that. This is you 5, you 4, you 3, you 2, and you 1. Now, you don't have this in your notes, but just write this down. So 5% are antagonistic, 21% are resistant. Now, this is Michael. He just shared it, spot on, bullseye. 36% are somewhere here. And about 27% who likes you as a co-worker, who likes you as a neighbor, but when you start telling them, could you come to Christmas? Like, I think about that. But they like you. Okay? They would not, they will be there for your child's birthday party. Okay? But 11%, when you give them the Katinas or the February 14 concert, I say, okay, yeah, we'll buy that ticket. Okay? So 11%, so almost somewhere here. But the bulk of the unchurched is in this area. And this is very, very important. Now, here are surprising things that he said in this book that blew my mind, because there are hard presupposition when it comes to people who are in church. But when they did this research, this is what he came up with. Number one, most of the church prefer to attend actually Sunday morning, if they attend. That's good news, right? Number two, okay, session number 2. Okay, the blander are females are likely to be either the most antagonistic or the most receptive of the gospel. Why? According to the study, it's because of this stigma of church abuses, where women are mostly the victims. But at the same time, they could be the most what? Receptive. Okay? Number 3, most of the unchurched feel guilty about not attending church. Yeah, they actually love the idea of maybe go to church. Number 4, 82% of the unchurched are at least somewhat likely to attend church if they are invited. But we have a problem, because 80% of our contacts are what? In the church. So here's the problem. Here's the problem. We're spending too much time with people that we are familiar with. Sunday morning, we hang out with our life group. Sunday afternoon, Monday, we eat out with them. Tuesday, we have Bible study or prayer meeting. Wednesday, we have choir practice and middle of the week prayer meeting. Thursday, we have another maybe ministry meeting. Friday, life group. Saturday, we go out. We don't really have time for the 82% who would say, hey, I'm here, invite me. Hello? Number 5, very important. Most of the church feel guilty. There's some problem with my slides. Number 5 is what?
Very few church.
Okay, very few of the church have someone share with them how to become a Christian. And Christians have not been particularly influential in their lives. There we go. It came out. Okay? They only have a few people who invite and share with them Christ. And if there were some, these were not really good Christians. They lied to argue. They're very judgmental. Okay? Number 6, most of the unchurched have a positive view about pastors, ministers, and the church. Okay? Number 7, some types of cold calls are effective. Many are not. What do I mean by cold calls? According to Rainier, these are what? People who are past tracks, they go door to door because they're forcing you. It's not a very effective way. Some may work. Okay? Number 8, the church would like to develop a real and sincere relationship with a Christian. That's why these are surprises. Okay. Number 9, the attitudes of the church are not correlated to where they live, their ethnic or racial background, or their gender. What Rainier says is that people from Georgia, Atlanta, or from LA, they have the same needs. People from Thailand who come and migrate here, people from Syria probably who migrate here because of persecution, they have the same receptivity. The only reason there is actually some kind of difference if they are rich or poor. That's where you have a night and day difference of when it comes to receiving the gospel. Number 10, many of them churches are spiritual but not religious. Spiritual means they're open to the idea that there's afterlife. They like the idea of, talk to me about angels, talk to me about God. They actually have sometimes even a fusing of this different faith. Religious could mean they just don't want to align what they believe in a certain organized religion. The good point though is if you understand that they are spiritual, that's a good common ground to discuss and share the gospel. Amen? Alright, this is good. Now, why am I sharing this? Because this is mostly the church that you have. Now, I have another scale that I use. Now, this one is by Ralph Neighbor. Dr. Ralph Neighbor is also good. And it's actually pretty simple. But it's good for us to have two comparisons. This one, he identifies the church into 3 different categories. Type A, Type B, and Type C. Let me explain. Type C is very simple. These are people who are not open to the message and not open to the man. That's you. Okay? Type C. Type B will be open to the man, not to the message. Or they could be open to the message, but not to the man. Type A is open to both message and man. Okay? You get this? So that's your type A, your type B, your type C. According to Ralph Neighbor, evangelism is the process of meeting the people where they are, and according to Rainier, meeting the people where they are, identifying their needs, and sharing the gospel of Christ with them. That's Rainier. However, Neighbor, I like this. Evangelism is the process of bringing someone from being not open to the man and the message to a place where a person is open to the man and the message. Okay? So his process is to bring type C people into type A, where you can share the gospel of Christ. Why? Because they're open to you and they are open to the message. Now, let's put this into a table. Let's look at type C. Not open to the man and the message. So what do? Your style, it should be very intentional. You do things for them. What is the strategy sometimes? Servanthood, service, things with no strings attached. Okay? And then the woman at the well. Jesus went there. This woman did not like, she was there during a noontime because that's the time where she's not exposed, because she was a woman who had been married many, many times. So she intentionally made sure that no one was there. In Palestine, where the weather is arid, he made sure that she's the only one, and yet Jesus went to look for that woman. That's amazing, intentional. And then what did Jesus do? Started to talk to her. Type B, open to the man but not the message, or open to the message but not the man. What do? It's relational. You build relationship. How do you evangelize? What's the strategy? Identify their felt needs. Felt needs means needs that they are actually, for example, when they say, I'm hurt, that's felt need right now. But the real need is that because, they were fired from work. Or maybe, I'm angry. That's a felt need. Okay, but the real need is that, probably someone did not pay her, big time, borrowed money. So, felt needs. And we're going to look at this, expand this later on, because we're going to look at those 5 Ds. Okay? Simon and the Ethiopian traveler would be a very good example. How did that happen? Okay, this man was open to the message, but he did not know Philip. Then Philip said, hey, I know what you're reading. I'm reading that too. And then the conversation, which led to the Ethiopian being baptized. Okay, that's type B. Type A, open both the man and the message. What do you do? The style evangelical. By evangelical means they're ready for the gospel. This is where it's a good time to invite them to church, invite them to a life group, and invite them this coming March, the Thank God It's Friday event, or Easter Sunday, or the Katinas, or the February 14th event. This is good. So all the while, we need to have ourselves busy in type C and type B. That is the reason I'm doing triathlon. I am seeking people. Is it working after 2 years? Yes. Yes. It's coming 2 weeks from now. A type C is going to come for the Katinas. I did a counseling of my type C that we're moving to type B. He's moving to type A. We might even have a Bible study, a life group open in his house. Amen? I don't know these guys. I built relation with them, made sure that it will come to this, so that eventually it will go to this. Building bridges. Andrew was like that. He was inviting friends. Hey, I met this man. I want to invite you to. Okay? So, here are the 5 Ds. Why is this very important? Because the moment, let's go back. The moment, this is your neighbor, your Egyptian neighbor, your Farsi neighbor, type C. Eventually, you started sharing, talking about plants, or maybe your pet, your dog went out, and then, hey, I have a dog too. Okay? Like my sister-in-law, who has 2 sons, Nico and Sebastian. And they were at the park, and this white woman from New Jersey who was new in San Francisco started calling, Nico, Sebastian! And my 2 nephews are like, Mom, they're calling us. I said, and the white woman was actually calling her dogs, who were named Nico and Sebastian. And that was the conversation, and they are very good friends now. Very good friends. We were there at Thanksgiving. See, that's intentional. You just build relation. It's intentional. It's service. I can take care of your dog. You have vacation in Lake Tahoe or Hawaii. I'll take care of the dog. Or I can, watch over your son after homework. You need to have a date. I like that. Then their hearts begin to open to the what? The message. Now, when is the gospel a good time to share? Look at those 5 Ds. What are this? Where they're very open. Death. Yes. When there is death, that's the best time. Jesus has a very soft spot when it comes to death. That's the only time we will find in the Bible that he cried when he saw Lazarus. He's a high impact people. And I shared this in the church during the resurrection. He went immediately to the disciples who lost him as they thought and pursued. Okay, next, divorce. Very high. Last Wednesday, I have a type C that I sat down in Starbucks. We shared. Okay? Divorce. He's so hurt. His wife left with another man. And his son, is attempting to we were a very good family for 26 years. And then, Facebook guy befriended his wife. That's why I share, my Facebook with my wife. Because she cannot unfriend me. That's a good tip, right? Divorce. So now I'm building type C, then I'm going there for type B. And then, look at this disease. Very open. They were diagnosed with a terminal illness. Or maybe not them. Maybe it's their child. They're very open. And then disaster. They have to sell their house quickly. They're filing for bankruptcy. That's the best time. Move them. And then deliverance. Someone is hooked with drugs or with alcohol. Okay? They need to be delivered. Okay? So that's your very good opening. This is your felt need. When you see this, immediately. Don't wait for Pastor Boya, Pastor Alan, or Pastor Ed. You go there. They're very open. That's the best time to share the gospel of Christ. So, in fact, when you look at your the last in your page in your session, you will find actually a very good scale where you will find the best time to share. The stress index. It's a pretty famous index, and you will find there that what I shared will confirm this index. Look at that. Death of a spouse, divorce, marital separation, jail term, death again. Personal injury or illness, number 4. Now this was way back in the 1960s. It's still a pretty much a good index finder. That's good. Because that would be leading to the gospel of Jesus Christ. So that is your goal. Your goal is to find people. Be intentional. Find these people. Then move them to type B. And then move them to type A. I remembered a guy while I was in college. His name was Hector. He was a guy whose parents came to migrate in the United States, but he was not ready to be petitioned. There were some problems with his petition paper. Suddenly, he was alone as a college kid with a lot of money, and the parents are in the U.S. When he went to college, I saw him. He had bloodshot eyes. Why? Because he was using drugs. In first semester, because he came from another island, there were 5 subjects, courses that he took. Of the 5, he only passed 1 course, and that was physical education. He failed in all 4. And he continued to use drugs. And I saw him. One day, because my notebook had the cover of the band Striper. I don't know how many of you know the band Striper. And it's psychedelic, black and yellow. And then it says the By Your Stripes We're Healed. There's a Christian band that plays rock and roll. I said, yes. So I gave him the little cassette tape. Said, listen to it. And he came back to me and said, man, I get high listening to this music. And I asked him, what's your story, Hector? And I spent every time at the break. And he said, you're not going to see me next semester. I failed. So I had to go to a different college, because that's the university. Maybe go to a less expensive, maybe small university. I'll probably take vocational. But I shared the gospel of Christ. Befriended him, moved him from type C. He needed deliverance, the last D. I shared the gospel of Christ to him. And then right there, I will never forget, in the canteen, with 1 Pepsi bottle and a few peanuts, I shared the gospel to him. And he opened up and received Christ, Savior and Lord. And he said, man, I want to move out from my dormitory. And he said, my parents are in the U.S. I don't know where to live, I could not sustain myself because they knew I had to finish up. He said, do you have a room in your church? I said, yeah. We're also looking for a janitor. And that's what Hector did. He worked as a janitor in our church and became one of our workers. He went to Bible school first. I continued to pursue university. Now, he's in Seattle, married, and serving our Lord Jesus Christ. It's amazing. Type C moving to type B to type A. As we close in this second session, I'd like you to look at your manual. Who is your type C? Who is your type B? And who is your type A? Write them down, and then we're going to close this session with a word of prayer. Amen? Write them down, and then we're going to pray, because we have an intentional event that we're going to actually explain later to you why we're doing this evangelism seminar. Okay? So write them down, and then we're going to pray.